Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Jake and Justin in the morning. Hope we're all doing well. No guests because we got a very special episode. This is going to be a little different today. Might be a little shorter because we are doing a Lakers meltdown special. This episode is solely about the not so much rise but fall of the Lakers season. I say not so much rise because I would say rise and fall, but there really wasn't much of a rise. Wasn't many high moments. So it's the attempted rise and extreme downfall of the Los Angeles Lakers season. Justin, how are you?
I am excited. Now, just quick background on this. I literally proposed this to Jake like 20 minutes ago, and I'm like, there is like nothing going on right now. Like, opening day started, but like there's nothing really that great to like go nuts over. Like, Yankees, Red Sox, which is the game I was looking forward to watching, was canceled because of the rain, unfortunately. But don't worry, it'll be on tomorrow, and I'll be excited. But I said, you know what? I want to piss off Lakers fans today. So let's do the rise and fall of the Lakers. Because for those who don't know, the Lakers are currently 31-48. They are on a 7-game loss streak compared to the Knicks, who are 35-45 and have lost one game and are on a 1-game loss streak. Because once again, the Knicks choked another lead. No surprise there. We'll choke a 21-point lead against the Nets. No surprise, but still. Nonetheless, not good. And the issue is, and now the Lakers, after losing to the Suns and then beating the Spurs, and then no, not beating the Spurs, and then the Spurs beating the Nuggets, have officially been knocked out of the play-ins. Not the playoffs, the play-ins. They are currently the 11th seed. Jake, let me just tell you what teams are below them right now. We have the Sacramento Kings, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Houston Rockets. So this is where the Lakers stand. They are bottom 5 in the West. They have one of the worst records in the league. It's not the worst, of course, but it's one of the worst. I mean, when the Knicks have a better record than you, no offense to Knicks fans, but that's bad. Especially because of the aspirations this team had. That's what makes it such a big deal. And that's why we need to talk about it, so much so that we need to dedicate at least 45 minutes on it. So, no, you hate to see it. No athlete of the week. It's just talking about why the Lakers suck. The Lakers on its own this season is one of the biggest you hate to see it on the show ever. We don't need a you hate to see it because this is it right now. So let's get started. Because in my opinion, there was a rise, and that was 2020. For a crap year for everybody, but, at least a good, decent years for the Lakers because they won the championship. During the offseason, they picked up, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook. No, not Russell Westbrook. History, Justin. They picked up Anthony Davis, and they beat the Miami Heat in 6 in the bubble. So, Jake, what do you think about that win?
That championship might be the most. It's not a fluke. But it's just it's not impressive. It just isn't. You had that year, first of all those guys had 3-4 months off, whatever it was. They were, normally by the finals, no one's 100%. Not LeBron, not Kawhi, not Durant. No matter how many what superstar is in the finals. By the finals, usually no one is 100%. Maybe 90%, maybe if they happen to be really healthy, but no one is 100% come the finals. That year, LeBron and all those guys were all 100% because they had 3-4 months off because of the pandemic. You had guys opting out. A lot of guys weren't playing because they didn't want to close contact with COVID we're at the height of COVID. A lot of guys opted out. Playing in a bubble, there was no travel, which is tiring, which is a factor. There was no fans, which is a factor. You had the expanded playoff with the bubble. Try to create some more revenue. That helps. So that championship, I guess it counts. It'll count in the history books forever, and it's not a fluke because Lakers had a good year that year, but it is just very not impressive. It's probably might be the least impressive championship in NBA history, honestly.
Yeah, I could agree with that, but here's the thing: I was very happy for Anthony Davis. I did think he deserved a ring. I think he played hard. He played very well that year, and it's a shame that he didn't even win Finals MVP. It was an absolute snub, in my opinion. But the thing is that I loved the most about it was that House of Highlights. It was either House of Highlights or Bleacher Report. They made a music video making fun of as a parody of the movie La La Land, and it was a joke. And in one of the parts, there's a guy dressed as LeBron, and he's singing that he wants a super team so he can go in playoff mode and win Finals MVP. And that was correct, and that was exactly kind of what happened. I don't think, look, LeBron's playoff mode, I think, is good, but it's a little overrated. Like, he does do very well in the playoffs. If people say that he's, if somebody says he's unclutch in the playoffs, I think that's a lie. He does not choke in the playoffs. He is a great player. And quick disclaimer here. This entire podcast is not going to be shitting on LeBron, for people that are wondering. It's going to be 95% shitting on LeBron, 5% shitting on everybody else. Not 100% though. So there you go. This isn't an episode of Undisputed with Shannon and Skip, to where I'm just going to where we're just gonna be taking the Skip Bayless role and destroying LeBron for the next 3.5 hours when they're trying to talk about football. It's like, Tom Brady won another Super Bowl. How does this affect LeBron's legacy? That's literally what Skip Bayless does. It's ridiculous. But I will say it does bring out some good content. Jesus. Anyway, I did think the bubble, yes, there were all the advantages. Your practice facility was where you played. No home court advantage. But on the other hand, they did still play well. I did think they had a pretty convincing win against all the teams they played against. I mean, they barely lost games in the playoffs. I think leading up to the finals, they lost 3 games in each, and they lost 3 games, 1 in each series. They beat the Rockets in 5, they beat the Blazers in 5, they beat the Nuggets in 5. And then I thought the Heat were going to win it. I thought the Heat might take this thing home because they beat the Bucks in such a convincing fashion. And I was happy to hopefully see maybe the Lakers kind of lose this year, but they didn't. But once again, I'm happy to see that Anthony Davis won a ring. Good for him. And I'm glad to see some other guys win it. I mean, Alex Caruso, great for that team. Even Kyle Kuzma played well that series, and people usually joke about him, but he played well. All of them did. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a lot of great guys. But then, now we take it on over to next season. Let's start off with the offseason here, Jake, of 2020. So this is who they picked up through free agency and trades. They picked up Marcus Gasol, Montrezl Harrell, and Wesley Matthews out of free agency. And in a trade, they got Alfonzo McKinney and Dennis Schroeder. And with that, they also dropped some people. They dropped Avery Bradley, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Quinn Cook, J.R. Smith, Dion Waiters, and then they traded Danny Green and JaVale McGee. So, Jake, looking at this going into this offseason, what did you think about the Lakers?
So are you talking about going into last season?
Going into last season, yep.
So here's how I looked at it. The Lakers are coming up a championship, which I was not that impressed with. But at the end of the day, they were coming up a championship. They still had 2 top 5 players in the world, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And they picked up Montrezl Harrell, who's a really good bench piece. Really good bench piece, really good big man on your bench, really good inside scorer, really good rebounder, pretty good locker room guy. He seems like a pretty fun guy to be around. You pick up Marc Gasol, who's past his prime, not what he was in his prime in Memphis, but he's still a solid backup big man, still a really good rim protector who could score inside. He's still a little bit of a jumper. And the other guy they picked up Gasol, Gasol, you pick up Trez Harrell, and then Schroeder, who he's not an amazing player, but he's a real good solid. He's an excellent, second point guard, or he's a really good, scorer. Guy's a really good scorer. He's got pretty good handles. He can pass. He's an okay starting point guard, really good second point guard. You pick up 3 pretty good players. You had 3 pretty good role players. That was, that's why I wasn't sure if they were going to win the championship the year before, because I thought, all right, you got LeBron and AD, but they need role players around them. I thought they didn't quite have the right pieces, and they were still able to overcome it. A lot of that was all the reasons we gave as to why that championship was flawed. And I thought, all right, they get Schroeder. Okay. So a point guard, they needed a point guard who could really score. Like for LeBron and AD. Schroeder can kind of do that, but there's better options than him. And then, you had other role players, Kyle Kuzma, you still had KCP, and you obviously Gasol, and you had some other guys. So I thought they'd be a top 4 team in the West, probably compete for a championship. I didn't see them going past Western Conference Finals just because, although they won the title year before, I thought if there was no bubble, I think they would start probably going to the West Finals maybe, but I don't think they would have won the champion. They would have won the championship the year prior, but I thought they would be in the championship picture, I guess, last year.
Yeah. Looking into this, I actually thought they were going to go back to back. I looked at this team and I'm like, whoa, because you had 2 guys who were 6th men who were getting a chance on a different team. Of course, we had Montrezl Harrell from the Clippers going to his same stadium, basically just different team. And he was the 6th man of the year. He's a great player. And then Dennis Schroeder, when he was on the Oklahoma City Thunder as a 6th man, he was unstoppable. And I was praising this guy's name. I was saying he's got to get, he's got to become a starter. He deserves it at this point with the way he's playing. In my opinion, the way Dennis Schroeder played in Oklahoma City is the way Tyler Herro's playing now. It was almost one of those things where if the starters were not playing well, Dennis Schroeder would just walk in, drain a couple of threes in the other team's face, and then they'll all of a sudden either be tied or have the lead. That was how good he was. And make this guy a starter. Give him some money. Give him the bag. Give him some money, please. He deserves it at this point. And then he goes onto the team, and I'm thinking, oh my God, their starting lineup's about to be crazy right now, because if Dennis Schroeder becomes a starter, which wouldn't have surprised me at that point, I would have been very, very happy. I would have been, happy to see him get it. But then the season starts, and when the season, and let's actually just jump straight to the end of the season here, because season was 72 games. Not that it was a drop, obviously, because their finals ended in October, so they needed but they had 2-month off season and then played 72 games, and they were the 7th seed, and this is the second. And this was the second edition of the play-in tournament. What the Lakers were in. So, Jake, what was your surprise of the Lakers kind of being in the plans?
Yeah, for a while they were like top 2 or 3 in the conference, and it looked like it looked like they were gonna that's where they were gonna finish, and they were gonna be in the picture. They would obviously have a favorable first round matchup, probably a favorable second round matchup. Looked like getting to the West Conference Finals wouldn't have been that much big of a deal, and the finals, at least the finals berth, looked very much in the cards. And then Anthony Davis goes down. The start of the Anthony Davis injury train rolled into the station. He goes down. So at that point, they're like, all right, we got LeBron James. LeBron's carry teams worse than the Lakers.
LeBron gets hit.
Yeah, LeBron's last year in Cleveland, that you take him off that team is probably a bottom 7 team. And who's their second best player? Watch Kevin Love, Jordan Clarkson before he broke out, George Hill. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay. And he's the Lakers. All right, they have some good players. Look at the guy who just named: Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Kuzma was pretty good. I mean,
Alex Caruso.
Alex Caruso, people joke about him. He's a very good player, excellent defender. He could shoot. He's a really good locker room guy. So yeah, they had a lot of good players. And then LeBron starts showing his age. He starts showing his age. He was 36 that year. Lakers are slumping and slumping and slumping and slumping. They're slumping and slumping. They were playing well defensively. I remember when he had your friend, I think it was a friend of your father's, Evan, on. He was a Lakers guy, and he was saying,
friend of my uncle's. Yes,
friend of your uncle's was saying,
kind of. It's my uncle's friend's son. So yes, friend of my uncle's.
So like somehow like a friend / relative of your uncle's, and he's a big Lakers guy. He made a lot of good points. He was saying, the reason they were like able to hang around was because they were still like one of the best defensive teams in the league. Maybe not offensively because they had you had so much scoring out of injury, but they were still an elite defensive team, which is why he praised Frank Vogel, and rightfully so. Vogel I thought has done a good job overall since he became a Lakers coach. I don't think he should lose his job. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, they were still playing well defensively. They just couldn't score. Then LeBron goes down. Now they're like, oh, they were still hanging around at that point because they weren't scoring a ton. LeBron was on his way. LeBron was still a great player, but he was at a point where he was probably still a top 5 player in the world, but he wasn't like the consensus number 1 guy who could carry a garbage team to the finals every year. So even though he had an average team around him, he needed at that point in his career, he needed another superstar like Anthony Davis to win a championship. So they were still hanging around for like 4th, 5th, 6th, but they were on their way down. Like they went from they were like at the top of the conference, and then they were like pretty much almost in free fall. Once LeBron AD went down, they just went in complete free fall, and they fell into the play-ins, ended up being the first play-in team. So, yeah.
That was absolutely insane. I remember watching that and I was just, I knew that Anthony Davis going down was going to be bad, but then LeBron went down. I'm like, okay, this is even worse. Like, who's going to step up now? Like, I thought Alex Caruso could have, but we also forgot to mention this. Dennis Schroeder did not play that well. He did not show anything that would have that looked even close to OKC, especially because, like I said, I was praising his name when he was in OKC, and I thought that of anybody who deserved the starting role, it would be him. And yeah, if you look at his stats, he didn't average too bad. He averaged the most minutes per game of his career with 32.1. That's the highest he's played, but he had a lot of career highs, and 15.4 points per game doesn't seem bad. But considering that the year before, as a bench player, the year before he averaged 18.9 games coming off the bench, that's not good. That's a decline. You don't need to be a mathematician to to understand that one. But I'm like, hey, who's going to carry the load? A washed Dennis Schroeder? A fallen off Dennis Schroeder at this point? No, probably not. But LeBron comes back in time for the plans. And the thing is that made it a little bit ironic, which I'm going to bring back later, was that, pardon my French, everybody, this came out on May 3rd of 2021. And with the play-in tournament, LeBron said, whoever came up with this shit needs to be fired. Well, that did not age like fine wine, and we will explain later. By the way, they're the 7th and the 8th seed. They were the 7th seed. They were playing the Warriors. And when they played the Warriors, they had a very tough time. The only reason why they won was because LeBron hit that clutch 3. And it was a good shot. I did think he over-exaggerated a little bit when he poked in the eye and he said, oh, I saw like 3 of the rims. Okay. I mean, maybe you did. I wasn't LeBron in that situation. Getting poked in the eye probably hurt like hell. That's just me as somebody who has gotten poked in the eye. It does hurt. But he did hit a good shot, and he brought them into the playoffs. Jake, do you want to explain what happened after that? Because they got to the first round. And then this is where, ladies and gentlemen, technically Anthony Davis getting injured the first time was the fall of the Lakers, but this is where it really started to happen. Jake, tell everybody what happened in the first round of the NBA playoffs with the LA Lakers versus the Phoenix Suns.
So this is interesting because remember the Lakers were in a play-in. So they were 7th seed, correct? They're the 7th. Yes, so they were 7. The Suns were a 2 seed. Normally, 2 plays 7. It's depending on the year. Every once in a while, the 7 takes them to a 7th game and give them a scare. Sometimes it goes 7. Usually, been up maybe a 5 or 6 game series. I think the 2 seed is heavily favored. They're usually miles better than the 7th seed. That year, a lot of people taking the Lakers to win that series. A lot of people were thinking the 7 seed Lakers were going to beat the 2 seed Suns. Some of them thought it would be a 5 or 6 game series the Lakers would win. Freaking Jay Williams, who was an excellent analyst, he was a good NBA player, great player at Duke under Coach K. He picked the Lakers in 6. He was saying, he picked the Lakers in 6 because of their experience and the Suns' inexperience. So the series starts. It was like going back and forth. Then Anthony Davis gets hurt again. And from there, they lose every single game. And they lose in 6.
They lost in 6 to the first round because Anthony Davis got injured. And when I'm not sure what your reaction was, Jake. I'm going to take it to you right after I say this. But what I thought was that that I was kind of looking back at LeBron's career on the Lakers. And what I thought was that, when LeBron James had like Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram and those guys, they were 11th in the West when his first year in LA. And then they get rid of Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, who's doing great, by the way, in New Orleans. I think Brandon Ingram's has some of the best years of his career in New Orleans. And it didn't look good. People thought, LeBron's kind of done here. And then he picks up Anthony Davis and they win a championship. And then this playoff series comes between the Suns and the Lakers in the next year. And LeBron, he played well. I think he played pretty good. But it showed that he needed a 2. It really did. It showed that it had nothing to do with him personally. It just had to do with, at the time, he's 37 now, so he was probably 35, 36 at the time, I believe. And he can't always do it on his own. He's no longer in the shape to where he could carry a team anymore like he did with the Cavs. Even though he has, and it wouldn't be surprising, when Anthony Davis went down, everything else, the dominoes just fell apart. Dennis Schroeder once again played like garbage. Really, he played like absolute trash. And then Contavious Cole Pope did not put up, an excellent performance. And Kyle Kuzma was basically non-existent that entire time. People were joking, saying he was going to the Shanghai Sharks, where guys like Kenneth Faried are playing, who does not deserve to be there, who does not deserve to be. He was a good player. Unfortunately, they got him. He had to go to there's the CBL, which is a good league. Yao Ming's doing some good stuff over there, but for a guy of that caliber of play, I thought surely somebody would pick him up. Anyway, that's my quick rant off Kevin Faried. But I was thinking, geez, LeBron needs Anthony Davis back, because the second he hurt his groin, because that's what it was. It was a groin injury, just like what kept out LeBron. And Anthony Davis got hit in the groin, and I thought, yeah, the Lakers need Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis probably is the best player on this team. And the only reason why he's not being looked at it like that is because of LeBron James. Once again, nothing to do with LeBron personally. It's just LeBron James is the big name there. So, Jake, what did you think when the Suns beat the Lakers?
I did pick the Suns to win that series. I thought it'd go probably 6, maybe 7. I did pick them to win that series. But then I looked at LeBron's career in the full picture. He's taken teams to the finals that are terrible. His first stint in Cleveland, that team went to the finals. Without him, that team is one of the worst teams in the NBA. That being said, he got shellacked in 4 games. Then he did his completely stupid whole decision thingy on national television that made that so cringy. Like, dude, why do you get this whole thing? When I commit to Sacred Heart, I didn't get that. Why when during the pandemic, I'm like upstairs, like I went ran upstairs to my room to like grab something from my room, and I'm about to come downstairs. And then my mom meets me at the top of the stairs, and then she hands me like this like paper and a pen. I was gonna sign the paper to officially commit here at Sacred Heart. She's like, "Are you ready?" When I went downstairs, why was there not like 7 cameramen there? Why not? Why didn't I get that? Why not? I don't know. Why? Why is LeBron? Because he's making a decision where he's gonna go. Except it's him where he's gonna play basketball. Me where I'm gonna go to college. It's not that different. Anyway, that was stupid. He took my toes to South Beach. Like, to the people that don't know geography, they might not even know where that is. So he goes to the Miami Heat.
A lot of people know that South Beach is Miami, I think.
They should. You never know. He's like South Beach. At first, I was like, okay, let's go to the Miami Heat. Wow, because I'm very bad at geography. Anyway, he goes to the Miami Heat. He needed Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, who were both top 10 players in the NBA at the time, to win 2 rings.
Ray Allen.
And he needed Ray Allen to hit that shot to bail him out. By the way, he had like 8 points in that game. And he was terrible in that game. He wouldn't even got to the finals. He doesn't make, if Ray Allen misses that shot, they lose in 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals to, I believe it was the Boston Celtics. Or I think it was the Boston Celtics. So and then he goes back to Cleveland when he didn't have Kyrie, when he needed Kyrie to hit that shot to win the ring. He needed Kyrie Irving, who when healthy is a superstar. He was in his prime at that point, and Kevin Love, who was really good, to win 1 ring out of 4 chances that he had. Yes, he went to the finals 4 times, and they ran into the Warriors, who are probably one of the top 10 greatest teams of all time. Those teams they have, but still, LeBron's an all-time great. He should be able to win 2 or 3 times against them, and he didn't. And yes, the last year he was there, he didn't have Kyrie. Well, just pick up a superstar. Yes, he dragged a garbage team to the finals, but he got shellacked in 4 games by Golden State. Then he leaves Cleveland. He goes to LA. First year, him and a bunch of young guys. He couldn't stay healthy. They finished like way out of the playoffs. They finished 11th, which remember there was no play-in yet, so now they're like the third or fourth team out. Gets AD, and they win a championship that I don't think they would have won if it wasn't for the bubble. And then AD gets hurt and loses in the first round. That's what I thought when they lost the Suns in the first round.
It's crazy. So they're out first round after having a pretty good win on in the bubble, and that's when people obviously if you played well in the bubble and then you lose early, you're called a bubble fraud. Like Tyler Hero was called a bubble fraud after they lost everything. He lost for the Bucks, which did not age well. Once again, did not age well. He's a 6th Man of the Year candidate right now. But that was the whole start. That was the whole start of the joke of Anthony Disney, Mickey. For those who don't know, the NBA bubble was in Disney World. It was in Orlando, which is very generous of. I guess it would be. Not, I think Bob Iger to do that. Disney to allow that, but didn't fan out well because all the Disney memes come out. Love Mickey. I thought that was pretty funny though. The Photoshop video of LeBron as Mickey Mouse, that was pretty good. But now we're on to the off season, and this is where things get a little crazy. And let's get started. Jake, I'm not ready, but I need to basically just clench my balls for this one. So firstly, here's who they got rid of. They got rid of a few guys that weren't really that big of a deal on that team. They got rid of Kostas Antetokounmpo, who didn't really play. He didn't play at all, actually, but he was one of the first of the Antetokounmpo brothers to get a ring. Devontae Kaycock, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that right. It's just, Jared Dudley never saw the light of day. Wesley Matthews, Alfonso McKinney, then Ben McLemore, Markieff Morris, Dennis Schroeder, all these guys didn't play well. Kyle Kuzma, same thing. And then Montrezl Harrell and Marc Gasol was left. And then two of the biggest ones, though, that were gone is maybe you could argue Kyle Kuzma shouldn't have been gone. But the worst one, the two worst in my opinion, was getting rid of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Alex Caruso. Jake, before I tell you who they signed, what did you think about who left? And also, they waived Avery Bradley.
Yeah, so a lot of those guys, it wasn't a huge deal. Harrell, I didn't think played great, but also I didn't think he didn't really get that many minutes. He was only getting like 10, 12 minutes, so I thought he could have, I thought maybe could have done a little better if he played a little more. So he definitely was not quite as good as he was the previous couple of years with the Los Angeles Clippers. But he's one of the best bench players in the NBA, more 6th Man of the Year for a reason. He wasn't, like Kyle, Kuzma. I thought I didn't, he's played well in Washington here, but I thought he struggled mightily. I didn't think he was very good. Schroeder, I thought in the regular season played okay. He played decent enough to warrant coming back, but he was awful in the playoffs. Like you said, he's clearly a guy who's a better suit for the bench, and they didn't have a true point guard, so they needed him to start. So I don't mind them getting rid of him. KCP, I didn't really think was a problem. I thought he was just solid role player on your bench, which is what he's there for. I thought he played his role fine. He's not expected, to light the world on fire. He's a good 3-and-D guy on your bench, a solid 3-and-D guy on your bench, nothing more. Alex Caruso was a big loss. That was a lot bigger than people realize. Caruso is an excellent defender, really good underrated defender. Probably one of the best perimeter defender in the league amongst guards. He's a very good shooter. He's a really good locker room guy. He's a really good role player to have. He's a really good guard to have on your bench.
Not to mention he was a fan favorite.
That too. He was a fan favorite. All the guys love him. And they had a lot of older guys. Yeah, LeBron, it was obviously much, much older. Obviously, he had accomplished pretty much everything in the NBA. AD a little bit older, a guy who had lot of accolades. Dwight Howard's much, he's in his late 30s. He's got a lot of accolades. And they all loved him, even though Caruso, was this, out of shape white boy who looked like a school teacher and was very undersized. They loved his grit. They loved the way he played. They all loved him. When he left, LeBron went on social media and was like, "No, he was upset that he left." So yeah, that also the team chemistry took a hit with Caruso leaving as well. You're right. So I thought Caruso leaving was a big loss. The Lakers really fumbled the bag there because I think he would have gotten less money. I think if he went back. I think he rearranged his contract offer so that it would be less money, so that the Lakers can make some more moves, and the Lakers I think kind of balked at it. He may have played around for years, and then they were still contemplating, and Alex was like, I'm a free agent. I got to sign for it too late, so then the Bulls scooped him up. And when he's been healthy, the Bulls have played really well with Caruso on the court. So that was a big loss, and then KCP leaving. We'll get to how he left soon. This is where it really gets interesting. Justin, you know what the next move they made is?
Yeah, that's what I'm about to talk about. That's
but the KCP, I would have probably kept him. I thought he was solid. I thought he did his job on the bench.
Yeah, KCP and Alex Caruso I thought were the biggest losses. Like I said, everybody liked Alex Caruso. Really, he was up there with some of the favorites, with some of the people who people look at as their favorite players in the NBA. It was one of those guys where it was an undisputed like. A lot of people like the guy. That's like Boban Marjanovic. The guy stinks, but nobody dislikes Boban Marjanovic. I've never heard that ever. Or you could give an example of Dirk Nowitzki. I've never heard anybody say, I don't like Dirk Nowitzki. How could you? You're heartless. Same thing with Alex Caruso. Now, obviously not comparing them skill-wise. Obviously, Dirk Nowitzki is an all-time great, best Maverick of all time, in my opinion. But in the sense of favorites, a lot of people liked Alex Caruso. And he also played the game in a great way. Just like you said, a great perimeter defender and a good shooter. But now let's talk about who they signed. This is where it gets bad. Or what we didn't know would be later on. They signed, firstly, they re-signed Talen Horton-Tucker to a 3-year, $30.78 million deal. Ridiculous. They signed Kendrick Nunn from the Heat, 2 years, $10.25 million. They signed Jay Huff and Sekou Doumbouya on a 2-way contract. They signed Austin Reeves on a 2-way contract. Rajon Rondo, they bought back Rajon Rondo. Malik Monk, they signed DeAndre Jordan, Dwight Howard. They re-signed him. They bought him back. God knows why. Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore, and Trevor Ariza. They all signed those guys. But, Jake, I think I'm missing 2 people. And I know who we're missing because I'm saving the 2 best for last. They signed Carmelo Anthony on a 1-year deal. And then they traded Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and the draft rights to Isaiah Jackson for Russell Westbrook. Jake, what was your reaction to this team during their offseason?
That's what I thought.
Oh, I thought you were about to do the freaking Triple J. Spider-Man.
That's a little bit old. It was better in December when we did this because the movie just came out. Yeah, I thought it was kind of a joke, honestly. I thought it was kind of a joke. LeBron and AD, I said it already in this podcast. They need a guard that can score. Okay, did I think Russell Westbrook would be this bad? No. Then the entire league would have completely bashed this move. And a lot of people thought this was a good move. They think, all right, they gave up for basically 3 role players and 1 draft pick for a guy who was one of the best players in the game, as we thought was still a top 10 player in the game. I really didn't think they would work because Russ is not a good shooter. He never has been. Maybe in his prime in OKC, he could shoot three a little bit. But at least his last couple stops in Houston and Washington and the end in OKC probably, he was not a good three-point shooter. At least the last couple of years, he shot like 29 or 27% from three. He's not a good three-point shooter. He's a really good scorer in some three-point line. He was an excellent scorer in some three-point line. Obviously, he was an incredible athlete, great passer, great rebounder, incredible rebounder for a guy his size. But that was not a good fit. That just was not a good fit. So I thought they, like, going into the year, I did not think they would compete for a championship. I thought they'd be maybe a top 5 team in the West, but I didn't think they'd make it farther than maybe the Western Conference Finals. So I really didn't like the move that much. I mean, the guys they gave up aren't, these other world players. I mean, Harold's he's been decent this year between Washington and Charlotte. I think Caldwell Pope in Washington's been okay, and Kyle Kuzma's has played decently in Washington, and they gave up the 1 draft pick. But like the players they gave up, it wasn't, you don't win a championship. Those 3 guys don't move the needle. But first of all, your depth is depleted. You gave away basically your whole bench, and then you said they brought in a bunch of guys. But look at the guys that got the run. Dwight Howard is cooked. Carmelo's cooked. DeAndre Jordan is overcooked, overburnt. He's ashes at this point. And no one else they brought in, Kendrick Nunn, I don't think is that good at all. His rookie year, I thought he played pretty good with the Heat. Outside of that, he hasn't shown me anything. And who else they bring in? Taylor Horton Tucker, I think, is a terrible basketball player. I don't see where his skill is. So they basically gave up, the only bench they had left for a guy who is not a good fit for their team, on or off the court. So I did not think it was a good move at all, honestly.
Okay. So here's what I thought. I thought on paper, this wasn't a bad move. This was not bad. I thought as a Lakers fan, I'd be happy that you got rid of the issues, which were Kyle Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell and even Kentavious Caldwell Pope from time to time. And you pick up Russell Westbrook, who even though he hasn't been playing as well since he left OKC, he's still been a pretty good basketball player. I didn't think he would go into that team to be the main shooter. I thought that could be Anthony Davis's job, Malik Monk's job, Carmelo Anthony's job, LeBron James's job. I thought they could all kind of back him up. What I did think he could come in for is great facilitating, great ball handling, great passing, good rebounding, and some good inside shooting. Because he is a good inside shooter, I think. And a lot of people were saying that the finals are going to come down to the Nets versus the Lakers. And let me just tell you guys something real quick. If the Nets lose early in the playoffs or the play-ins, we're doing one of these for the Nets too. Just saying. Fair warning. I'm calling it right now. We're doing one of these for the Nets. Anyway. There was one thing though that was looming over my head, and that was what I thought was ego. I thought, which is the same thing I had with the Nets, but right now we're on the Lakers. I don't want to drift off to that path real quick. We could save that for if the Nets lose in the play-ins or early in the playoffs. There's a lot of egos on that team, and ego's not a bad thing. It's not, but we're all looking at guys who was the number 1 player on their respected team. On the Lakers at one point, and still is, and on the Cavs, it was LeBron James. For New Orleans, Anthony Davis. Oklahoma City, Russell Westbrook. Knicks, Carmelo Anthony. Or at least I thought Carmelo Anthony was the number 1 guy in the Knicks. Yeah, without a doubt, he was. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, good looking team, but who the hell is going to pass the ball? Who's going to be the guy? Who's going to be the one to dish the ball over and who's gonna be the main guy when, because I bet you ask yourself, there's always this hypothetical that people give. 3 seconds left on the clock, you're down by 2. Game on the line. Who do you give it to? And I don't think that was a team that could come to an easy decision. Probably you'd give it to LeBron James or Anthony Davis, but knowing the egos on that team, Russell Westbrook, or it could have been a guy like Malik Monk throwing the inbound pass. It could have been Russell Westbrook or Carmelo Anthony, or any of those guys being selfish and shooting a double team 3-pointer. It could have been. That was my issue with the ego. But there was one thing that was looming over everybody's head with these signings, and it's one word, 3 letters: age. And that's because Russell Westbrook is 33, LeBron is 37, Carmelo Anthony's 37, and Anthony Davis is 29. Now, Anthony Davis is still a young guy, still in his prime, in my opinion, but these are some old guys we're talking about. And this is when LeBron made this tweet on August 4th of 2021. Keep talking about my squad, our personal ages, the way we play. We're past our time in this league, etc., etc., etc. Do me one favor, please, and I mean please, keep that same narrative energy. Keep that same narrative energy when it begins. That's all I ask. #thank you with the crown emoji. That's my background for today. Why do you think it is? Because it aged like dog shit, sitting in the ground for 5 years. That's how bad it aged. By the way, I ended up deleting this tweet. That's when you know it was bad. So the season starts. Jake, when the season started for the Lakers, what did you think?
I thought, all right, they're doing okay. They're not playing bad. I won't say they're playing bad, but they were hanging around. I mean, teams get off the slow starts. Then I started watching Russell Westbrook play. I thought, oh my God, this guy is a terrible basketball player. The guy's hitting the top of the backboard. He's turning the ball over 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times a game. And this guy just can't play basketball anymore. And they might be hanging around, in the top 6, 7, or 8. But I was like, I don't know about this team, man. This guy Westbrook's supposed to be the missing piece, and he looks like crap.
Yeah. So their first game that came back in the season, everybody's like, "Oh, what happened to the Lakers?" I'm like, "Okay, it's one game." Then they played again. I'm like, "Okay, it's just 2 games." And then it's 3 and 4 and 5, and and now all of a sudden we're up to All-Star break, and I'm looking at the team, and I'm like, "What the hell?" They just, as you said, Russell Westbrook did not look good. Yeah, you're right. He could not shoot. He was not looking like a great play. He was not looking like a good player that he used to be. Carmelo Anthony was looking like he was getting 0 play time. And their wins that they were having were not very convincing. That was the other thing. They were kind of close games. There weren't really a lot of games you looked at to where they were blowouts. Like on November 2nd, you beat the Houston Rockets by 2. By 2. And we're not talking about James Harden's Rockets. No. We're just talking about the Jalen Green Rockets. No. That should not be happening. But I'm all the way in All-Star break, and I'm like, what the hell, man? What is wrong with this team? And then they were still winning some games here and there, but nothing to where anybody would be satisfied at all. But I thought they could bring it back in the second half of the season and maybe, just maybe, secure what I thought was a 6th seed spot. Jake, what happened in the second half of the season.
So they're playing. They're trying to, gain a little ground. At this point, they were a major disappointment. They were in the play-ins. At that point, like, all right, the least make the play-ins, and they still got a shot to be top 5 or 6 in the West if they could figure some things out. Anthony Davis gets hurt for like the 13th time. And then it just is a sinking ship. From there, they were losing game after game after game after game. There was no fight in this team. They blew like a 30-point lead to the Thunder, who are awful. And then they go back a few days later, they blew like a 20-something point lead to the Thunder. So they blew 2 huge leads to the freaking Thunder. They're not playing any defense, which is what they were known for the last couple of years. They're turning them over like crazy. Not only Russ, but it was LeBron as well, and all of them as well. They were, they looked effortless. There were some games they weren't even competitive. There were some games they were playing like a team like Denver or something, and they were losing by 30. They just looked completely lifeless. They're blowing 20, 30-point leads left and right. Looking completely lifeless, not playing any defense, careless, turn them all over. They looked as bad as the Knicks looked this year. The Knicks at the time looked lifeless. They weren't playing defense by having Tom Thibodeau as your head coach, what you did last year with the defense, turn them all over. Julius Randle. But it wasn't only Randle, it was Kemba, it was Fournier, it was Mitch, even RJ, it was all of them. Lakers were even worse in my opinion. First of all, they got LeBron James. They got LeBron James. Knicks don't have LeBron James. But they looked even more lifeless than the Knicks, even more effortless than the Knicks. They were even more turnover prone, even more careless. They were blowing even more leads, even worse leads. The Knicks didn't have that many losses when they were losing by 30 plus. Lakers had, I think, some more than the Knicks did. And I looked at LeBron. I'm like, dude, you're like supposed to be like this all-time great leader, and you got a team that's supposed to be a championship contender, and you're losing by 30 every night. You're blowing 20-point leads to a team that looks like they're almost trying to lose. You look careless and lifeless and effortless out there. You're getting your coach fired. What are you doing?
Yeah, but Jake, real quick, you want to know what was the constant from the constant of last year? Similar to last year? Guess who got hurt again? Anthony Davis. Now, let me just mention one thing here first before I continue. Speaking of Anthony Davis, there was earlier in the beginning of the season when Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard got into a bit of a fight. Now, do I think that's why they have a losing season? Absolutely not. Not even close. I think they got over that. But I do think it set the tone and set what I meant by egos there. Because if you're getting into a fight this early in the season, like we're like a month in, this early, you're just getting into a fight. At least the Heat, Jimmy Butler and Udonis Haslem got into it in the closer to the end of it. Like me, that's like teams have fights. That's normal. But when it's happening this early, that's an issue. Now, the Lakers were 27-31 before the All-Star game. Jake, do you want to know what their record has been since the All-Star game? It was 4-17. They went this according to Stat News. I love this website. They went 4-17 since the All-Star break. Since after the All-Star break. And this was the team that people thought were taking it to the finals. This was a team that people looked at and said, even if they didn't think they were going to make it all the way, at least surely the playoffs. And now they're standing kind of fighting for the 10th seed. The 10th seed, nonetheless, against the Spurs. And, AD comes back kind of in the latter half of this season here. And what caused, and then Jake, please explain to me please explain to the crowd, excuse me, what events happened that caused the Lakers to be knocked out of the play-ins.
Oh my goodness, where do I start? First of all, so AD gets back. Everyone's happy. AD's back, and then 2 weeks later, he gets hurt again. He gets hurt again for the second time this year. He had a major foot injury today, at least a month. Like the 87th time this guy gets hurt. Russell Westbrook, despite all year, he's going 4 for 17, 5 for 22, 3 for 16, 6 for 21. Continues to shoot the ball and miss the basket and miss the basket and miss the basket. And when I say miss the basket, he literally is missing the entire basket. Turn them all over so many times. As LeBron said, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, and just not even enough numbers. Rough how many times Russ
I remember when the Timberwolves, like specifically Patrick Beverly, big top 3 trash talker in the league. Probably best trash talker in the league. He's got to be, or at least up there. He like held his nose while Russell Westbrook saying you're trash, and when Russell Westbrook airballed the 3, he and Karl-Anthony Towns like ducking, almost to joke with him. And then he said in a press conference out that they haven't done anything. It's like that's what Westbrook says. Like, oh, they haven't really done anything. It's like, actually, yeah, they have done something. They're beating you. That's something. They're better than you. And first things first. One big issue I had though with the reception with the Lakers was that, okay, Westbrook did not play well at all, and I don't agree with him getting upset over being called Westbrook. If you don't want to be called Westbrook, hit your shots. That's simple. You have been long enough in the league to where you need to make your shots. You don't have to be a sniper, but you gotta at least hit. You can't get me hitting the side of the backboard. It can't be airballing on a consistent basis. It's just not okay. But what's even worse is when his family and him in general are receiving death threats. That, in my opinion, was out of line. Completely ridiculous. I could understand Lakers fans being pissed, but that's a whole new level. Like they should, like, I hate to say, but the people who send death threats to Russell Westbrook and his family should be ashamed of themselves. They should be, and I think legal action should be taken on them. Do not send death threats to his wife and his kids, and even him for your team not having a winning season. You didn't pay them. You don't owe them anything. And even if you did, they still don't deserve threats against their life. They're a person. They didn't do anything wrong. Just because they're not playing well, that does not make Russell Westbrook the worst person to ever walk the face of the earth to where he deserves death threats. So
yeah, that was very unfortunate. Definitely out of line. If I was Westbrook, I would have taken legal action. He would have had every right to, and he would have had probable cause and everything. That's terrible. Back to the Lakers though.
Oh baby, I am excited. Here we go. So now everybody is shocked. People like, especially for me at least, I'm like, what happened? Jake, I'm sure you were the same way. What happened? It blew up. It blew up out of nowhere. And that was when the stakes got really, really high for the Lakers, because the San Antonio Spurs were sharing a very similar record with them. And to get into the play-ins, there are now 4 games left. There are now 3, but there were 4 games left in the season. And the Spurs needed to beat the Nuggets, and the Lakers needed to lose to the Suns for the Spurs to get into the play-ins. And the Spurs were down there, their all-star point guard, DeJounte Murray. So, Jake, what did you think about that? Knowing that, do you think maybe the Lakers would have still had a chance?
I would say, over the last 2 weeks, I did not think that I came to the conclusion that when I realized, as shocking as it was, I did not expect the Lakers to make the play-in. They were just playing so bad, and the Spurs were playing decently. They got to within a game or two. And then you look at their schedule the last came down to the last 4 games, all of a sudden, like they're tied with the Spurs. You look at their schedule, like all right, the Lakers have a couple winnable games, and they also get the Thunder, which we thought all right they should win that game. The Spurs, Denver's a top 6 team in the West. Spurs don't have their best player. With their best player, they're not that good. Without them, they're pretty bad. They're playing Denver as a good team. They got probably the best player in the NBA this year, and that's Nikola Jokic on the team. By the way, she's my MVP this year for the second year in a row. So, all right, I thought maybe they might stay alive because, there's no way without LeBron there beating the Suns. That wasn't going to happen. But I thought maybe the Spurs had a good chance to lose to Denver, so the Lakers would technically still be alive. They could have stayed at least within 2 games of the Spurs with 3 to go.
Yeah. No, what were you saying?
And then I look at my phone and I see the Spurs win. At that point, the Lakers were done. I didn't have to look at the score of the Lakers. I knew they were not beating the Suns.
Yeah, I was surprised the Spurs won. Considering they were down to DeJounte Murray, like he's such a great player, such a big part of that team. And yeah, you could say, oh well, he's a big part of the team for a losing season. They'd be even worse without him. They really would. But Greg Popovich's last stand was to keep LeBron James out of the plans. That I guarantee you that was it. That's probably his high note right there that he ended on. Because certainly I don't think the Spurs are going far at all, but hey, if they could hold teams out, that's a good thing. And I was surprised that the Spurs won down DeJounte Murray. And then I thought, okay, now all the Suns need to do is win. And of course they delivered. But here's the thing, Jake. I spoke about 20 minutes ago about something that LeBron James said. When he said back in May of 2021, he said about the person that made the play-in tournament, whoever came up with this shit needs to be fired. But the thing is, that person who you want fired is the same reason why you still had a chance to be in the playoffs. Just saying. If there was no play-in, you would be out of the playoffs. You'd be gone. And the only reason why you had a chance was because of the play-ins. So now, Jake, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you think about this comment and this kind of how poorly this aged? Like, what do you think about that?
LeBron James is a complete bitch. That's what I think about that. Excuse my language, but he's a complete bitch. So last year, when he's one of the top teams in the West, he's got no problems with it. He had no problem with it in the bubble when they expanded, and they did a massive playoff expansion. He had no problems with it when they were top 3 in the West. As soon as he slipped into the plans because he wasn't playing well enough because he didn't have AD to carry his ass. And when he sprained his ankle, had to miss like a month with a freaking sprained ankle. They drop into the plans, and now he comes out and says it. Like, there's no way this guy says it. You don't drop into the plans. Like, dude, get a freaking life. Go back to one of your 13 mansions, you complete loser. And like you said, and now, if it wasn't for the plans, you would have been out of it a month ago. By the way, you're welcome.
Tell them how you really feel. And second of all, I know that imitation is the biggest form of flattery, but if you're going to say it right. Oh, and by the way, you're welcome. For those who don't know, I made, as a senior in high school, a short film called Justin Tech, where I spoke in that voice. I talk like this. I wore mullets and a pink tie, and I played as a douchey school IT guy that just breaks stuff. And it won a few awards. I was pretty happy with it. It became a very iconic character in that high school. Shameless plug, I know. But yeah, it's ridiculous. I did not think, yeah, I do agree with you. LeBron James, it is a bit strange. If you're going to complain about it through the whole time. Don't just complain about when you're winning, because when you're winning, you're not you just like you said when you were one of the best teams in the league. He wasn't complaining. When he gets into the play-ins, when he becomes the 7th seed, that's when he starts complaining. But now little does he know that the play-ins is what could have ended up saving that team. They wouldn't have made it far, but at least they would have had a shot. But now here we are. April 7th, 2022. We're at the big end of the season. And right now there is a game that once again the Lakers cannot win. And that's the blame game. People are blaming a lot of different people. The finger can be pointed virtually anywhere. And that's kind of the big thing where we're here today. Some people blame Russell Westbrook. Some people blame LeBron James. Some people blame Anthony Davis. And some people blame Frank Vogel. So, Jake, let's start with you. Who is to blame?
Who is to blame? I think all of them. I think all of them are to blame. But to answer it more directly, a lot of it's on Russ because he was brought in to be the missing piece. It was not a good fit from the start. The trade should have never happened. How they would have been better off with John Wall, who they were considering trading Westbrook for. So would they have won a title with John Wall? No, but they would have at least been in the playoffs, probably in the top 6 with John Wall. They could have went out inside DeMar DeRozan. Imagine missing with DeMar DeRozan. I think we would have the results would have been a lot different if they had DeMar DeRozan. They had signed him in free agency.
Remember, they're all supposed to get Buddy Hield.
Even that would have been again. Did they win a title with Buddy Hield? No, but they would have been in the playoffs. They would have not. They have not won. They would not have won a ring with John Wall, but I would have been in the playoffs with DeMar DeRozan. They might have had a shot. Honestly, that might have been the guy they needed. I mean, besides those 3 guys, they already didn't have nothing when it ended up happening. We didn't realize it at the start. But I think they would have been very much so in the playoffs with DeMar DeRozan, and they would have been in with Buddy Hield or John Wall as well. But Russell Westbrook was absolutely horrendous. He completely fell off. He can't shoot. He can't score. He can't pass. He can't rebound. He can't jump. He can't play. He's completely arrogant. He's a complete snowflake. He's a complete asshole at the media. They're asking the questions like, "What do you think?" I'm a reporter. I'm like, I don't think anything. I don't care. I don't work for the team. I work for whatever network or person tell me go ask Russell Westbrook questions. So I'm like, okay. Like, dude, answer the question. Answer the question what it is. Is this what? I mean, like the one question was like, all right, is this what you they're asking like, Alpha isn't what you've expected. And he was like, how do you know that? Because I don't know. I thought your expectations were not to be a terrible basketball team. I just assumed that. I just assumed you didn't want to be an embarrassment to society. That's just kind of something I assumed. But if that's your expectation, then you're doing great, man. Keep up the good work. But if not, then not so much. So not only was he hurt one of the worst players in the NBA this year, he was completely arrogant off the court. Guy is just a complete asshole. You had Anthony Davis, my guy. You gotta stay healthy, my dude. Come on, dude. You gotta stay healthy. It's not like you're 37 like you're Brian. Like you said, Justin, he's 29. He's like still in his prime, basically. Made the towards the back end of it, but still, he's still got some prime years left. And he's played what, 20 or 30 games. This guy can't stay healthy. But I think LeBron does deserve a lot of the blame because this team was constructed by LeBron, La GM, La coach, La owner. It was all him. He wanted Russ here. When they got Russ, he was like, we're going all the way. He was like, oh, keep talking about how we're so old. We're going to prove you wrong. Oh, my God. Russ coming out saying, we're going to tell these young guys to shut up and we're going to prove them all wrong. Blah, blah, blah. LeBron wanted Russ here. He wanted Carmelo here. He wanted all these old guys here. He was going on the record saying, all you guys were saying we're too old and we're not going to change. You guys are wrong. Keep talking. Blah, blah, blah. But LeBron constructed this team, and it blew up in his face. And this shows one chose this Lakers team chose two things. By the way, this team is the biggest disappointment in NBA history. Yes, I said it. It showed one, a lot of these big threes don't work. Have big threes worked? Yes. Did Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and Ken McHale. That being said, they drafted those three guys. When they drafted Parrish and McHale, they knew going in, Larry's the guy. We're the second and third options. So they knew, and they came in after Larry. Yeah, Jordan with Pippen and Rodman. When Pippen was drafted after Jordan, he was able to watch Jordan for a few years and realize, if I'm going to this team, I'm going to be the second guy to Michael Jordan. And once Jordan came back from retirement and didn't have Horace Grant anymore because he had signed with the Orlando Magic, Dennis Rodman, signed, knowing, my job. I really shouldn't be. I am not to shoot the basketball. I am to grab rebounds and play defense, and he did that as to the literally couldn't have done it any better. Like those work when when you're not homegrown talent like that, and you go and look at the Brooklyn Nets. They signed Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the same day in free agency. Then a year later, they trade their entire draft picks like the rest of history. And a couple of really good players, Karis LeVert, Gerald Allen, for James Harden. It's like who's in the who's 1, 2, 3 in the pecking order. We didn't know. Lakers, they go out, they sign LeBron. Then LeBron's like, because I got hurt and I'm not as good as I used to be. We need to get rid of everybody else. So we trade like all their draft picks and their entire young core, which was an excellent young core with Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Josh Hart, to the Pelicans for Anthony Davis. They get one bubble championship out of it and nothing else, by the way. And then you trade your entire bench for a guy who doesn't fit your team. Russell Westbrook ended up not only didn't fit the team, he ended up completely falling off either way, no matter who he played for. So it just shows, three big guys like that doesn't work usually, unless it's like they're all drafted, homegrown talent, and they're all brought in knowing, all right, I'm the 2 and the 3 to the number 1 guy, and I'm okay with that. With LeBron, AD, and Russ, they all brought in thinking I'm the number 1 guy, and they realize they realize one is they're going to do one number 1, and 2. Justin. This is why you do not let players run your organization. Players play, coaches coach, executives run the front office, and they make the behind the scene decisions, and they bring in the players. The players do not do that. That is why you don't have players run your organization.
Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Yeah, I know we're talking about basketball, but that is an Aaron Rodgers moment if I've ever heard it, because Aaron Rodgers does that. But who is to blame? Tough question. One thing first I want to bring up, just a quick bit of respect here. After the loss to the Suns, Anthony Davis said, I think the biggest thing that I think about personally is what we could have been had we stayed healthy all year. What could have been? Guys feel like, okay, what could have been if I was healthy all year? LeBron James was healthy. Kendrick Nunn was healthy. You think about those things. We put this team together and it looked, Kendrick Nunn was healthy. So the most frustrating part of the season is not being sure what we could have been. So it looks almost like he's blaming himself there. Looks almost like he feels bad for getting injured. And he did say these aren't ticky-tacky injuries. He's right. They aren't. Those weren't good-looking injuries. They looked painful. As a guy who, I'll tell this story. I was playing basketball one day back in my backyard. And my backyard is on a hill. It's a little strange. And, because of COVID, we needed to kind of exercise outside, post it, as proof, take a picture to prove it. And what I did was I played basketball. I shot some hoops, did a few drills, and I decided to be that guy and practice Dirk Nowitzki's fadeaway jumper. And for those who don't know me, I have the worst feet known to man. I have an instep, flat feet, hammer toes, and a rolling ankle. And I go up for the fadeaway jumper. I didn't turn all the way, and my ankle rolls on the hill. and I am screaming in pain. I tear my ligament. I'm in a boot for a few weeks, but at least the shot went in. At least the shot went in. So I'm like, all right. So do I get an N1 out of this? I got fouled by air, but at least I think I get an N1, right? I got my free throw. But my ankle blew up to the size of like a tennis ball. It hurt. It was painful. So when he rolled his ankle, I can understand how that could be painful. But some of the other ones, dude, like you sprain your toe and you're out for like 2 months. It's it's not an 8. Here's the thing. Does anybody want to get hurt? No. But you don't have a meniscus tear, an ACL tear. You don't have any of these things that should keep you out for months and months on end. Even hamstring, I don't think should keep you out for months. That's the thing. If you were getting out for like 1 or 2 games from time to time, okay. You need to be out for weeks. That's an issue. But not the biggest issue. There's Russell West. Then we could turn over to Russell Westbrook. As you said, did not live up to expectations. Like my expectation for him was not to be the main shooter, but the guy who could have some good inside, but not to be the main 3-point shooter, but the guy who could shoot good in the inside, be a good facilitator, good handler, good passer. Mr. Turnover, air balls, shots, hit side of the backboard, just did not play to expectations. But I also don't think that he's to blame either. I think he's part of it, once again, but I don't think he's the main guy. Then people say the dumb thing and say it's Frank Vogel's fault. For anybody who thinks that the Lakers' failure is all Frank Vogel's fault, do not come on my podcast. Get off my podcast. Don't come on here. Please. It's not a coach can only do so much. Yeah, maybe his playmaking was not amazing, but it's not his fault Russell Westbrook can't shoot. It's not his fault Anthony Davis gets injured. It's not his fault Carmelo Anthony is not the same way he was. It's not his fault that LeBron that the entire team is just a walking turnover. It's not. So it's not his fault. But then this is where it becomes the most eye-opening. Jay, can you let me share my screen? Because I have to it already is? Okay. I have to show you this. This is the Los Angeles Lakers depth chart. And if you're a big basketball fan like Jake and I are, depth is very important. Depth is just important in general for a team. And I'm going to divide this between pure guards, which are guards that are point guards, shooting guards, or both. An example of that would be your Drew Holidays, your James Hardens, your CJ McCollums. You guys know them, you love them. And then there's your forwards or kind of mixes to where they could be guards and forwards, like Paul George, he's one of those. LeBron James is one of those. Even Kevin Durant can be one of those because he could just do it all. But let's look at who their pure guards are. Russell Westbrook, DJ Augustine. Now let's look here. Oh, here's Austin Reeves. Nope, he also plays as a forward. Malik Monk. Oh, he can play as guard. Nope, he also plays as a forward. LeBron James. LeBron James, point guard. What do you mean? He could also play small forward and power forward. Malik. Let's hear. Talen Horton-Tucker can for some reason play shooting guard, small forward, and power forward. God knows why. Carmelo Anthony can play. Here's a guy who's not even on the list. He's somehow a power forward and a center. And then you have Wenyen Great Gabriel, who never played. Dwight Howard's just a center. Anthony Davis can play. I think he played power forward as well. Then you got Stanley Johnson. If you guys don't get what I'm trying to say, I'll put it to you like this. They had only 2 guys that only played guard. How the hell did they have the balls to move Malik Monk to small forward? He was good playing as a guard. That's the shame. But if you get what I'm saying, there's no depth. There's zero depth. Okay, Malik Monk's also a pure guard. Never mind. But, He just plays straight up guard. He plays point guard, shooting guard. But they put him at forward one day. I'm like, why the hell did you do that? But they have 3 guys that strictly play guards. That's a general management issue. That is a general management issue. And I think it comes down to 2 guys. It comes down to LeBron James and Rob Pelinka. I don't think LeBron James called for Dwight Howard to come back, and he called for Alex Caruso to leave. But he did want Russell Westbrook. And with losing Russell Westbrook, you lost Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Montrezl Harrell, who I thought deserved a second chance on that team. I thought Montrezl deserved a second chance on that team. And you're right. Don't let players kind of manage your team. But I don't. But the other thing is this: they will never, ever blame LeBron James. Never. Oh my God. LeBron James is the Tom Brady of basketball. If they win, it's LeBron. If they lose, it's never LeBron. It's always somebody else. And that might be true. However, when you're healthy and you're dropping 35, 40 points per game and you're dropping 35, 40 points a game and you're still losing, that's your fault, dude. That's your fault. Like, and in a sense, it is. You have been in this league long enough to where you've been in this position. You need to carry the team. As Stephen A said, the GOAT conversation is over. It should have never began. Michael Jordan is better. He is still better. It does not matter what the stats look like. When Michael Jordan Michael Jordan is the only guy to three-peat, retire, come back after 2 years, and then three-peat again. I don't see LeBron James doing that. I don't see. You need to when you score. The thing is this: being the scoring leader is okay. I mean, it definitely shows that you're putting in a lot of work. But when you're missing the win factor, that's the thing. It just seemed like he was playing for the points and not for the win, to be honest with you. That might sound harsh, but it seemed like he cared more of passing Karl Malone and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in points than he did actually wanting to win a game. So, Jake, before we sign off here, what needs to be done to potentially – I think the Lakers it's going to be tough here. But what do you think they need to do? Because 3 or 2 games from now starts the offseason. No, after the 10th, the offseason basically starts for them because it's the end of the regular season. So what do you think they need to do to potentially get back to what they were in 2020 when they won a championship?
The Lakers need to realize one thing is not going to work with Russell Westbrook. They need to do something. They need to realize LeBron can't carry a team anymore. I can't stand the guy. I have my reasons. But he is a great player. He's probably still a top 5 player in the game. He's one of the all-time greats. He's not in the GOAT conversation, but he is an all-time great nonetheless. At least a top 10 player of all time, if not even better than that. One of the all-time greats. But he's now 37. He'll be 38 next year. And his son's going to be in the NBA in probably 2 years. And unless you completely turn around and you're getting Bronny in 2 years, he's not going to probably be here too much longer. Anthony Davis, he's going to hit 30 and he can't stay healthy. You cannot expect him to play a full season next year. Even a half a season could even be a stretch. So you need to honestly, I would blow this whole thing up. I wouldn't even think LeBron should be off limits. I really don't. I don't see how this works with this team works. I mean, who do you put around LeBron and AD? Zach LaVine's a free. I don't see him with the Chicago Bulls. And like, who else is? Like, you do not have the piece to trade for Damian Lillard. You do not have the piece to trade for Damian Lillard unless AD or LeBron's in that trade, and that would make a lot of sense. So you don't have a piece to trade for him, and just what other big name is going to be available? All right, Bradley Beal. I don't think they had a piece to trade for Bradley Beal. And like, again, unless maybe I don't think you get away with keeping LeBron and AD, but then outside of those guys, who are you gonna trade? Russell Westbrook for Bradley Beal? Okay, sure. So they don't have the pieces to make a big trade for a Damian Lillard or a Bradley Beal. Like, and then like, right, Zach LaVine would definitely go a long way, but they don't have the cap space. Russell Westbrook is gonna make $40 million next year. He's gonna make 47, I think. He's gonna make over $40 million next year. LeBron's gonna make over $40 million next year. AD's gonna make he's gonna make at least 30. He's gonna make 30 plus million. They might be stuck with this threesome. They might have to just take next year off. That's my. They literally might have to be like, all right, except they're gonna be a 30-win team and just hope to God that the West that somehow gets worse and they can somehow get the 9 of a 10 seed and then at best losing the first round. That's probably because I don't see how they trade for Westbrook unless they buy him out. But if you're Russell Westbrook, I don't care how much money he's made. I'm not leaving $30 million on the table just so I can go sign a 1-year minimum salary contract to play 10 minutes a game for the Charlotte Hornets next year. So, like, and you're stuck with LeBron and AD, no matter, obviously they're great players, but, they're making so much money. You really need to free up some cap space. AD can't stay healthy. LeBron is still a great player, but not the guy he was a few years ago. The Lakers are screwed. So they might be better off just trying to find a way to buy out Russell Westbrook, because unless you pay at least half his salary and probably package him with at least 1 first-round pick, I don't think you're going to be able to trade him. So maybe you have to buy him out and maybe try to get a guard who can score and see if you can sneak into playoffs next year. And then after that, after that, you might have to look at LeBron and be like, all right, in 2 years he'll be 39, 1 year left on his deal. He might even be able to opt out. We'll see how AD's health holds up next year. But just their best option is probably get Westbrook out of there, get some guys who can score, and just see what happens, because they're not going to be able to. The best case scenario obviously is to completely recreate the team, which they just can't do because they don't have the trade pieces to get the names they want, and they don't have the cap to bring in the guys they want, and they don't have the draft picks to draft a blue chip guy because they gave it a little life to get Anthony Davis.
Jake, when the offseason hits, the full offseason, we might be looking at the biggest blow up in NBA history. Because I think there are 3 guys that stay out of this trade. LeBron James, out of this blow up. LeBron James, Malik Monk, and I don't think they will, but they should. They should keep Austin Reeves. I think those are the 3 guys that stay. Russell Westbrook, gone. Anthony Davis, gone. Dwight Howard, gone. All of them. Who the hell is Wayne Ellington? Gone. Get the hell out of here. Taylor Horton Tucker, you still got 2 years with him. God bless your soul, really. You got to still deal with him. I think Frank Vogel gets another chance. This is, he's like, if I look at this team and look at how they played, I don't think he deserves to be here. I don't think he deserves to go. What will happen, though, I think Rob Pelinka gets fired. Rob Pelinka should be fired. And they should get a new general manager who does not take shit from players. This is where teams fall apart. It would not surprise me if a team like the Packers, for example, falls apart because the GM just deferred to Aaron Rodgers and gave him his $200 million deal when he's going to be like 40 by the time that ends. Like, he's going to be 41, 42 or something. He's not, or 40, I don't know. He's going to be in his 40s at least. But yeah, when you look at free agency, there's not many the guys they could pick up. You could pick up Austin Rivers from the Nuggets, who's a good player. I think he's a pretty good player. But if you're looking to pick up these big name players, you're not doing it. You're just not. But then you really need to look at it and say, if I'm the new GM that I think they're going to get, and I'm the rest of the team, I'm thinking, okay, do we need big names? Do we need ultimate star power? Because you could look at a team like the Miami Heat and the Memphis Grizzlies. Can you please tell me, Jake, how many NBA superstars they have on their team? Probably one on each. John Morant's a rising NBA superstar. Jimmy Butler's could be considered an NBA star. That's it. Who the hell heard of Max Strus before the Miami Heat? Who the hell was ever praising Xavier Tillman's name before this? Star power doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Super teams really don't work. Sorry, but it's true. Not all of them are built to win. If I may think of a few super teams that win, it would probably be the Golden State Warriors team with the death lineup, but at least two of their big players were drafted. Not all come off blowing up your cap space and paying heinous amounts of luxury tax. You're right, Jake. Lakers are screwed. That's it. I think they could pick up some guys, and I think they can maybe pick up a second round pick. And draft is always the luck of the draw. I've explained this before. You know, they could maybe strike gold, and pick up the next NBA superstar out of that draft. But it's all kind of thinking about it here. But let me just read off one thing before I close us out. Keep talking about my squad, our personal ages, the way they play. We're past our time in this league, etc., etc., etc. Do me one favor, please, and I mean please, keep that same narrative energy, in all caps, energy, when it begins. That's all I ask. Hashtag thank you with the crown emoji. Well, LeBron, I know you deleted that tweet because here's why. We're all talking about your squad, but we're not really talking about the ages. We're talking about the way they play. Turnovers, side of the backboard, no drive to win. We're past our time in this league. Yeah, maybe you're not, but you're getting there. Your time might be up, LeBron, unfortunately. And you know, do me one favor, please keep that same energy when it begins. Oh, we are keeping the same energy, LeBron. The same energy that, as you said, Jake, the 2021-2022 Lakers are the biggest disappointment in NBA history. Thank you so much for watching our Rise and Fall of the Lakers special. We know it was a little bit shorter, but we know this had to be talked about. Have a great day, guys. Fill out the guest form, and we'll add so I can eat Takis on stream. And we'll see you if potentially the Nets do the same thing.
That's all, folks.